Finite math. In this video, we're going to talk about mathematics of finance. Specifically, we're going to talk about simple interest and future value. We're going to compute simple interest using the simple interest formula, compute simple future values using the formula, and solve problems using investment using the simple interest and future value formulas. As you go through the video, you're going to notice some icons on the top left. This icon tells us we're going to talk about the process. There are some examples, practice, a little self-quiz, and then what you need to do after the video. It's not magic, it's math. Let's get started. Let's look at the simple interest formula. I equals PRT, or I equals P times R times T. I is the interest earned. P is your principal, amount invested. R is the interest rate changed to a decimal, and T is time, and it's always based on a year. We can think about the principal as the amount in a savings account. To change percent to a decimal, we move 2 places to the left. And finally, for time, we always want to round to 4 decimal places if needed. Let's look at an example. Find the simple interest on a boat loan of $5,000 at 16% for 8 months. It asks us for simple interest, so we're going to use I equal PRT. Before we can do anything, we have to change 16% to a decimal. I'm going to move my decimal place 2 places to the left, and I end up with 0.16. Time is also based on a year, so 8 months is the same thing as 8 over 12. Remember, there are 12 months in a year. So let's fill in what we know. We know that our principal is $5,000. Our rate is 0.16, and the time is 8 over 12. You could always reduce the fraction, but it's not needed. When we multiply everything together, we get $533.33. Remember, we're talking about money, so we run around to the nearest penny. Find the total amount to be paid back for the boat. The formula is A equals P plus I, where A is the amount to be paid back, P is the principal or amount of the loan, and I is the interest. The principal is $5,000. That's what we borrowed. The interest is $533.33. So the amount to be paid back is $5,533.33. Let's look at a couple more. Use the formula for simple interest to find the indicated quantity. Assume a 360-day year. They give us that the interest is $100, the principal is $2,000, we don't know the rate, and the time is 180 days. Remember, time is based on a year, so we're going to use the fraction 180 over 360 for t. They tell us to use a simple interest formula, so we're going to use I equals PRT. The interest is 100, the principal is 2,000, we don't know the rate, but we do know the time is 180 over 360. We get to do some algebra now. We're going to take 2,000 times 180 over 360. This gives us 100 equals 1,000 R. To get R by itself, we divide by 1,000. So it turns out that R is 0.1. Remember, we need to convert to a decimal, so we're going to move the decimal place 2 places to the right. And this gives us 10%. So the rate for this question is 10%. Use the simple interest formula to find the missing quantity. They give us I equals 105, P equals 7,000, R equals 6%, and T is, well, we don't know. We're going to use the simple interest formula, I equals PRT. We know that the interest is $105. The principal is 7,000. Now for the rate, we have to change it to a decimal, and that gives us 0.06, and we don't know the time. We get to do algebra again. We're going to take 7,000 times 0.06. That gives us 420 t. To get t by itself, we divide by 420 on both sides. This gives us a time of 0.25 years, or a quarter of a year. Here are 3 for you to try. You're actually going to fill out this table. Complete the following on simple interest. Round to the nearest tenth if needed. Pause the video, do these, and then press play to check. Let's look at A. Well, we don't know what the interest is, so we're just going to put a question mark. The principal is $30,000. The rate is 4.2%, and we have 3 years for time. We're going to use the simple interest formula, I equals P times R times T. Since we don't know the interest, we're going to leave the I alone. Our principal is $30,000. Our rate is 0.042. Did you remember to change it to a decimal? And then time is already in years, so we didn't need to do anything. When we multiply, we get $3,780. Let's look at B. The interest for B is $50. The principal is $600. The rate is 3%, but we don't know the time. Once again, we're using the simple interest formula. We happen to know the interest, and that's 50. Our principal is $600. Our rate is 0.03. Hopefully you remember to change it to a decimal. We're going to take 600 times 0.03. That gives us 18. Now we have 50 equals 18t. To get t by itself, we divide by 18. And this gives us 2.7777. Remember, it asks us to round to the nearest tenths place. When we round, we end up with 2.8 years. Let's look at C. The interest for C is $120. The principal is $2,500. We don't know the rate, and the time is 4 years. We're going to use our simple interest formula, I equals PRT. We know the interest, and that's $120. The principal is $2,500. We don't know R, so we leave that one alone. And our time is in years, so we just put a 4 there. We're going to take 2,500 times 4, which is 10,000 times R. We're going to divide by 10,000, and we end up with 0.012 equals R. Did you remember to convert to a percent? I hope you did, because the answer is 1.2% is our rate. Here's the first self-quiz. You're going to use the simple interest and the given values to find the missing value. Pause the video, complete the questions, then press play to check your answers. Let's work these together. For number 1, the principal is $600, the rate is 7%, the time is 3 years, and we need to find the interest. Let's fill in what we know. We know the principal is $600, the rate is 7%, and I hope you remember to change it to a decimal, and the time is in years, so we'll just put 3. When we multiply it all together, we get $126. Let's look at number 2. For number 2, we don't know the principal. The rate is 4%, the time is 3 months, and the interest is $22. We're going to use the same formula. I put 22 in for I. We don't know the principal, so I'm going to just leave the P. I have to change the rate to a decimal. And then, since the time is in months, I have to write a fraction, 3 over 12. When I multiply 0.04 times 3 over 12, we get 0.01. To get P by itself, I have to divide. And it turns out that our principal is $2,200. For the last one, the principal is $1,600. We don't know the rate, the time is 270 days, and the interest is $48. Let's fill in what we know. We know the interest is $48. We know the principal is $1,600. We don't know the rate, but we do know that the time is 270 days. Remember, we have to compare that for a year. That means we write 270 over 360. When I multiply 1,600 times 270 over 360, I end up with 1,200. We still have to solve for R, so I'll divide by 1,200. This gives us R is 0.04. But we have to convert it to a percent, so the rate for this problem is 4%. Present value and future value. Do you remember the first problem we did? And we talked about the sailboat. We wanted to find out the amount that we'd have to pay back. So we took the principal, or the amount of the loan, plus the interest that we'd have to pay. This is the future value formula. Well, the interest, remember, is I equals PRT. So to simplify this formula, we'll write A, the amount to be paid back, or the future value, equals P plus PRT. Of course, for mathematicians, we like to simplify it, so we could also say P times 1 plus RT, where A is the amount or future value, P is the principal or present value, R is the annual simple interest rate as a decimal, and time, once again, is based on a year. Let's look at one. Find the total amount due on a loan of $600 at 16% interest at the end of 15 months. We're going to work both equations because I want you to see that they're exactly the same. The first one is A equals P plus PRT. What's that going to look like? Well, our principal is $600. Once again, our principal is $600 times the rate as a decimal and the time. Since it's in months, we have to divide by 12. Now you're going to notice that I actually did 15 divided by 12, not as a fraction. As things get more complicated, I recommend using the division key on your calculator than the fraction key. We'll end up with $600 plus $120, which is $720. Let's look at the other version of the formula. Once again, 600 is our P, then we have the parentheses 1 plus, and then we have the rate times the time. When we put this into our calculator, we want to put the parentheses, all the parentheses. When you do that, you'll have 600 times 1 plus 0.2, and that gives us 600 times 1.2, which, guess what, is the same thing, $720. From now on, we're actually going to use the second formula, A equals P times 1 plus RT. The principal P is borrowed and the loan's future value A at the time T is given. Determine the loan's simple interest rate R to the nearest tenth of a percent. They ask us to find the future value, so we're going to use our future value formula. Let's fill in what we know. We know we want $5,227.50 in the future. We currently have $5,100. The rate we don't know, and the time is 3 months. We have to base that on a year, so I'm going to do 3 divided by 12. Just as a reminder, what I'm going to start doing is using the division key on my calculator. It's a little bit easier than doing the fraction key, especially when we have all these numbers. All right, let's simplify. When I take 3 divided by 12, I end up with 0.75. Hopefully you remember your algebra where we have to use the distributive property. So I'm going to take 1,500 times 1 plus 1,500 times 0.75. Now these are a lot of numbers for me to say. So as we go through, just look at the numbers. So we need to get R by itself. So I'm going to subtract 1,500. Now I really need to get R by itself. So I'm going to divide by 1,275. This gives us a rate of 0.1. But not yet, because we have to change the decimal to a percent. And that gives us 10%. Here's one for you to try. You're going to pause the video, do it, and then we're going to work it together in just a minute. Determine the present value P you must invest to have the future value A at simple interest rate of R after times T. Wow. Okay. Let's put up our formula. A equals P times 1 plus RT. Now let's fill in what we know. We know we want $9,000 in the future. We don't know our present value, but we do know the rate is 13.5%. Now we need to change that to a decimal. The time is 13 weeks, but to base that on a year, we have to take 13 divided by 52. Hopefully you know that there are 52 weeks in a year, and that's why I took 13 divided by 52. When you're doing this on your calculator, I recommend doing this piece first and getting your answer, and then taking 1 plus that answer. Then we're going to divide by that answer. Well, you try saying 1.03375 like 4 or 5 times. Anyway, that's what we're going to divide by. And that gives us P equals 8,706.166868 and so on. But the thing is that we're talking about money. So we're going to round to the nearest penny. And that gives us $8,706.17. Try this one. Pause the video, do it, and then press play and we'll work it together. Use the formula for the amount A equals P times 1 plus RT to find the indicated quantity. Well, now we don't know what the amount will be in the future, but we do know our present value is $5,500, our rate is 10%, and we're talking about 3/4. Let's fill in what we know. Well, we know the principal is $5,500 and the rate is 10%, so I'm going to change that to a decimal. Now we're looking at 3/4 for time. When I think about quarters, I think about, well, how many quarters are in a dollar? 4. So to figure out the time for year, we just take 3 divided by 4, or 0.75. We're going to multiply. I recommend doing this first. And then we're going to add. We're going to multiply 1,500 times 1.075, and that gives us $5,912.50. Yep, you're probably going to have to round. What is the annual interest rate earned at a 13-day T-bill with a maturity value of $1,000 that sells for $996.16? A Treasury bill or T-bill is a short-term debt obligation backed by the U.S. Treasury Department with a maturity of 1 year or less. T-bill maturities. T-bills can have maturities of just a few days or up to a maximum of 52 weeks, but common maturities are 4, 8, 13, 26, and 52 weeks. The longer the maturity rate, the higher the interest rate that the T-bill will pay to the investor. We need to find the interest rate. So let's use our formula, A equals P times 1 plus RT. Let's fill in what we know. We want $1,000 in the end. Our principal is $996.16. We don't know the rate, but they tell us it's a 13-day T-bill. Remember, we have to compare that to 360 days. So we're going to take 13 divided by 360. When we do that, we get 0.0363. Now we're going to use the distributive property. So I'm going to take $996.16 times 1, which is $996.16, and $996.16 times that. That gives us 36.16 R. We need to get R by itself, so I'm going to subtract $996.16. That gives us $3.84 equals 36.16 R. To get R by itself, we divide, and we end up with 0.1061. Now R has to be a percent, so we're going to move 2 places to the right, and we end up with 10.6%. Now you try saying all those numbers over and over and over. Anyway, good job. Here is the final self-quiz. Pause the video, complete the questions, then press play to check your answers. All right, let's see how you did. Number 1. Determine the present value P you must invest to have the future value A at simple interest rate R after times T. Our amount we want in the end is $2,000. Our rate is 12.5%, our time is 26 weeks, and we need to figure out the principal. Let's fill in what we know. We know we want $2,000 in the end, so that's A. Our rate, we change to a decimal. Now 26 weeks, we have to change to be based on a year. So we'll write 26 divided by 52 because there are 52 weeks in a year. I took 0.125 times 26 divided by 52, and we end up with 0.0625. I'm going to add. Now I need to get P by itself, so I'm going to divide by 1.0625. This gives us P equals 1,882.3529411. But here's the deal, we want money. So what we're going to do is we're going to round to the nearest penny, and that gives us $1,882.35. Let's look at number 2. Determine the present value P you must invest to have the future value A at simple interest rate R after times T. The amount we want in the end is $9,000. Our rate is 13%, and our time is 39 weeks. Let's fill in what we know. Well, we want $9,000 in the end. Our rate as a decimal is 0.13. Now 39 weeks, just like the last one, we're going to take 39 divided by 52. When we multiply 0.13 times 39 divided by 52, we end up with 0.0975. We're going to add that together, and we end up with 1.0975. Let's divide that on both sides of the equal sign, and we get P equals 8,200.45558, and so on. But again, we want money, so we're going to round to the nearest penny. That gives us $8,200.46. Awesome. What do you have to do next? Practice, practice. I don't know how many times I can say practice. Even if your homework doesn't count towards your grade, you still need to do the homework. Did you like this video? We'll like it. Did you really like it? Why don't you subscribe? Did it help you? Why don't you share it with a friend? Remember, it's not magic, it's math.